Our guest now is U.S. Bureau Chief LifeSite News, Ben Johnson. He is also the guest host of Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. How are you, Ben?
Always great to be with you, Crane. Thanks.
Great to be with you. And let's jump in here. We have a number of stories to cover, obviously, and as we get to our agenda for tonight, I thought we would start out with stories that you've been covering, but one, a little while back, we got the ban on abortions after 20 weeks in Arizona. That got upended by the Supreme Court because they would not hear an appeal from the state there, as I understand it.
That's exactly right. The state of Arizona passed a law designed to end abortion at 20 weeks on two grounds. First of all, that there's a greater likelihood of complication for the mother after 20 weeks, and also that due to fetal development, unborn children are capable of feeling pain from 20 weeks forward or about 20 weeks forward, depending on which scientist you listen to. It could be a little bit before that. Everyone agrees certainly by 24 weeks the child is capable of feeling excruciating pain during an abortion. Governor Jan Brewer signed the bill, and then, of course, as they are wont to do, Planned Parenthood and the ACLU immediately sued the state. Originally, a federal judge, upheld that law, but then it went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, or as it's sometimes called, the Ninth Circus Court of Appeals. It was the most overturned appeals court in the United States. It just fell behind the Sixth Appeals Court, but it's fighting its way back to number one. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, a three-panel judge, not even the full appeals court, granted an injunction saying that this bill was unconstitutional simply because it chose 20 weeks as the point rather than viability. When Roe versus Wade went through, it said that in 1973 you could not regulate abortion in any way until the point of viability. At that point, it was 28 weeks. In 1992, the Casey v. Planned Parenthood decision revised that back to 24 weeks because science had caught up, and we were able to make viability even earlier, and that date will continue to move forward as science advances. Well, they said since viability is 24 weeks, and that's what Roe holds, you cannot regulate abortion before that point. Now, because of Doe v. Bolton, you can have an abortion for virtually any reason from that point forward as well. But to me, the most outrageous point of the entire decision was that Judge Andrew Kleinfeld, by the way, who was appointed by Bush 41, said that if Arizona was just concerned about fetal pain, they could have done this by simply requiring that the baby be anesthetized before it is aborted. So if you're just worried about the baby feeling pain, you can give the baby anesthesia and then rip it apart, and that would be perfectly fine. That would achieve the goal.
And in that they're admitting that it's a life and it does feel pain and recognizing that, but nevertheless, hey, just numb it and then you can kill it, rip it apart. Go ahead. Pardon me.
Exactly, which is exactly what they've done with our national conscience over abortion for the last 41 years. Numbed our conscience, and we have turned away. And the Supreme Court turned away, refused to hear this challenge to this law. Now, since many states, of course, several other states also regulate abortion at 20 weeks, most recently Texas, which we saw Wendy Davis filibuster, this may very well have implications for other states if it is not eventually ruled at the Supreme Court.
You mentioned Wendy Davis, and I want to get that clip ready, if we could, for Ben. Maybe cut number 4. And Wendy Davis, you just described what the act is, okay, and what the procedure is in the abortion and the ban at 20 weeks. And Wendy Davis made a stand in Texas where she has been lionized by the left for this stand against a bill that would ban abortion after 20 weeks. And here is the latest report on Wendy Davis from Maria Shriver from the Today Show, and I just wanted to get your thoughts. Roll it.
Wendy Davis became a familiar name last year when she stood in her pink tennis shoes for 11 hours to defeat a Texas abortion bill. Even though the bill eventually passed, Davis became a star, and her story, her personal story, resonated across this country.
Everybody says Wendy Davis is an overnight sensation. Does it irritate you that people call you an overnight sensation?
I'm not an overnight sensation. I'm a Texan, and I'm a Texas success story. I am the epitome of hard work and optimism.
Wendy Davis was catapulted into the spotlight last June when her filibuster caught the nation's attention.
The Capitol literally felt like it was alive that day.
Ben, if you are asked to respond to that and you have Maria Shriver and Wendy Davis there, what's your response?
Well, Maria Shriver, of course, I would have to be very ginger around, because you may remember in 2008, Maria Shriver broke down the fourth wall of bias that we knew always existed and just outright endorsed Barack Obama for president. We've always known that the media bias is there, and you can see that so clearly with this glowing portrayal of Wendy Davis. But
no qualifiers, by the way. No qualifiers in the way of the way she was presented, as if she is the norm. That is it. What an amazing. Go ahead, please.
Well, and of course, when they report on the pro-life side, it's always the controversial bill. It's never the controversial Wendy Davis. The rabidly pro-abortion Wendy Davis. And as an aside, I thought that her own comments were fairly self-serving. You know, I am the epitome of hard work. She's coming across like dusty roads. I'm the son of a plumber. I'm coming to Congress, you know.
Let's stop talking about it. Yeah.
She's on this program, lionizing herself and being lionized on this program by Maria Shriver, who endorsed Barack Obama in 2008. But her singular claim to fame was that she stood in pink tennis shoes, coordinated her outfit, and filibustered against a 20-week ban, which passed. Mm-hmm. The bill passed. She temporarily suspended it, and Rick Perry simply overstepped, called session back in and said, because of the rabidly anti-democratic tactics that were taken by the Democrats and by the pro-abortion protesters, shouting people down, threatening to throw things at legislators and so on, he called another session, and it passed, went into law. Her singular great achievement is that she's a failure. This is the only thing that has made her an overnight success. So when we listen to these programs and these outlets where Maria Shriver openly endorses President Obama and so on, we have to remember what they are. This is what the left does. They create overnight successes and overnight sensations. Big media find someone like Wendy Davis, and suddenly she is the new face of all women everywhere. No qualifiers, no question, no presentation to the other side. And it's the same thing, by the way, which large foundations like the Ford Foundation do. They find small groups, pump millions upon millions of dollars into them, and or George Soros has done, for example, with the Human Rights Campaign, the pro-gay marriage organization, pumped millions upon millions of dollars into this organization so that it can have a global reach. It went from nothing to a massive global organization in the span of a few short years. Same thing with Wendy Davis, only in a few short months. The left uses its radical, deep resources to create overnight sensations for people who favor its agenda. My own response would be simply tune it out. Tune them out. Don't partake in anything that they have to do. When the Human Rights Campaign comes forward, just understand it's George Soros speaking and tune him out. When Maria Shriver's speaking about the latest overnight sensation, or anyone in the media, understand that's simply the left giving its spin, and tune it out and tune in AFR and underwrite it yourself, because they speak for your values and your perspective rather than the big media that you are partaking of.
You also, and this goes to, with the remaining time we have left, when we engage in a debate, we go to the substance, and we can actually demonstrate. We don't have to shout down, and we don't have to listen to the propaganda machine either, or the PR machine of the left that sanitizes abortion and a whole host of other things. But we're seeing things, for example, in Oklahoma, with the people's will being overtaken or trumped by the court. And I think they've got it wrong here, Ben. Oklahoma, with the marriage between a man and a woman, and the recognition of that as a constitutional amendment, if I'm not mistaken. Please explain, and why is it that we see the court always overruling the people on these things, rather than, if it's so popular, if homosexual marriage is so popular? Go ahead.
Yes, Oklahoma passed a constitutional marriage protection amendment in 2004, along with many other states, writing into its constitution that marriage is defined as one man and one woman, and that they will not recognize any sort of marriage that was contracted between two partners of the same sex in any other state, and that was the state's stance. It was overwhelmingly supported, more than 3-1. It was 76% of the population went out and voted in favor of this.
30
in Oklahoma,
seconds.
one
Yes.
of the most conservative states. Judge Ernst Kurt, who was appointed by President Clinton, said that this violated the federal Constitution because the 14th Amendment gives due process and equal protection under the 14th Amendment. In other words, he said basically that the only reason people did this is because they hate gay people. And that is the only state interest. There's no compelling state interest in defining marriage as a union of a mother and a father who may have a child, so you can protect the child and make sure that the two parents are brought together and kept together in a stable society.
AFR Talk.